Hey guys, Andrew Hall back at it again, 17-year NDT tech, here to talk about liquid penetrant inspection. Liquid penetrant inspection is considered one of the really basic NDT principles. One of the first you're going to get. Most of the time when people get them, they get MP and LP as your basics, and you get RT and UT to follow. Liquid penetrant, very, very easy. There's a saying, if you can spill a coffee, you can do liquid penetrant, and probably you've seen it before. You spill a coffee on a table, and then the little cracks, well, that doesn't show very well, the little cracks in the veneer, you end up getting bleed out where dirt has gone under something, because slowly it comes out. So we have oils with, there we go, that's my visible red water washable, which has a great deal of fluidity to get into the cracks. Basic idea is you spray this stuff on top of something. I've kind of preset something so we can see later. You're going to spray this penetrant on top of the surface. Oh no, my buddy, bad blue's back, and you got a little crack. Now this red stuff here, I got some on my hands. By the end of the day, it's going to just spread. It works its way. It'll start at the tip of your finger. If you leave it, it'll go all the way down to your elbow. I'm wearing another new shirt. I don't learn my lesson. Anyways, you spray this stuff on top. It's going to flow all over the surface. You leave it alone for like 20 minutes. This stuff will get into micro cracks. The red will work its way down into the base. And then the idea is we remove the surface of the material, and then if you have a keen eye, you'll see it by itself. It'll slowly, because it worked its way in, and now there's no tension on the top, it'll slowly bleed its way out. So we spray contrast developer on top of it, that same alcohol and chalk I showed you in the mag one. You spray that on top, puts a little powder. Now this red stuff, it's getting sucked into the chalk, makes a really clear mark. We're going to see it in a minute. The basic principle, you got bench work. That's this, again, unbelievably unportable piece of equipment. You can dip in penetrant. You could have an emulsifier if you're looking for very fine cracks. We'll get into it. Then we have a water wash station. In here, we have a drying station. And then in here, if you're doing fluorescent, we have a black light station. This gigantic piece of equipment is used for batch parts. We're doing hundreds of gears. We're doing thousands of bolts, rods, and crankshafts, and little tiny pieces which require high precision. You get these, we use it mostly for storing garbage. You get these baskets, you fill this drum all the way up with penetrant, you dip them in, they get 100% coverage. This is an automatic washer, we can't use ours, we're not gonna think about that. But it's profoundly unusable for most field work, which is what I do. But it's unbelievably portable. Man alive, you could be in the middle of a field, in the middle of nowhere. You don't need power, you don't need nothing. You need this, you need a little spritz bottle of water, some paper towel, and you can perform a test with enough time. What should we talk about? I guess when it comes down to it, the thing about penetrant is that it's going to take about the same amount of time. Time is the thing. Time and temperature. If you get this unbearably cold, it's made to move, and it'll tell you on it. I think it's good for 5 degrees to 55 degrees, or something in the area. But if you can't spray it on something that's boiling, it's going to burn off, evaporate parts of the chemical compound. If it's too cold, you're just going to slow the mobility down quite a bit. So regular temperatures, you let this spray on, you give it 20 minutes. A big crack, if you have a huge void, it's just going to spray in there. If you have a very tight, very minor surface crack, boy, this is a bad pen. It's going to take 20, 30 minutes for that little bit to go in, get in there, and stay in there. And you might have an issue with, when you're washing the water out. And then you get kind of a too clear indication. This is the easiest NDT style to do, but also the easiest to misinterpret. It takes a real keen eye to look at, you'll see on your surface, it'll look like this. You'll get little dots. You'll get, little lines. That's not a crack. It's not something what cracks and makes a U-turn. It could. You have to know the process. You have to do more thinking with liquid penetrant. Mag particle, you hit it, you get a line, that's a line. UT, you put a signal in, it hits something, it comes back. If it hits something, there's something. There's still interpretation. Is it an inclusion, a lack of fusion? Is it yeah, I mean, that's in everything. But in liquid penetrant, false positives are a huge problem. And so is surface prep. We're going to get into it. So here, let's just finish up the die just to show you. So we got this. We're going to play a game of make-believe here. I can do it with one hand. It's not ideal. Then we got to get a little water on this. Shoot, I didn't get a water can. I'll just get cleaner. Give me a sec. Oh my God, guys, we're doing it again. I got cleaner. It'll only take a sec. This isn't proper, but it's quick, and I know there's a crack in there, and I know the crack won't wash out. Let's try her now. Put a little cleaner on there. So the dye's gone. You can't see dye on there anymore. Now the surface is dry. Now you can tell with a keen eye, you can see a little bleed out already happening. This is a massive crack. If you look, it goes all the way down the inside. It's a huge crack. But spray a little contrast developer on there. Dry it up. Clear as day. There's a crack. You can't miss it. But look at all these poor cleaning indications. Is that a crack? No, because if it was a crack, it would bleed out really sharp like this. That's just bad cleaning and surface conditions. So we're going to get into that. Surface with dye is so important. Rule number one, if your crack is under paint and that paint is properly bonded, your dye does not penetrate the paint. It'll clean up beautifully. You'll get a perfect, no response developing. That's perfect. Now on the upside, very well bonded paint on a crack tends to crack. So you get that. If you have water, if the pieces, look at it now. We're gonna get to it. So if you have water on the piece, if there's, if it's dewy outside and the piece is wet, well, this stuff is water washable. It will break down. It's not gonna get in, it's gonna be repulsed by that. I've done tests on pieces of equipment that just have an oil misting to it. And you spray your penetrant on, and there's, you sprayed the whole thing. You can't get penetrant in this spot. You spray it again. It just to the side, up, over. I can't test that area because the surface prep wasn't done well enough. You might have to wire brush it. You might have to chemical clean it. Actually, we should get into that too. So paint, big problem. Now surface corrosion, pitting, rough surface. If your surface, oh man, lots of surface corrosion. So you sprayed that stuff in and there's corrosion everywhere and the penetrant gets on all of it. But now I'm coming in with this rag to wipe it. I can't get in these grooves properly, So when I spray the developer on that is gonna bleed out like crazy. It's gonna make the biggest, ugliest mark. It's like if I just sprayed this on the table and sprayed the chalk right on top of it. You're not gonna get anywhere. That's for cleaned corrosion. The same problem if you have scaling corrosion. So you have a crack, in a casting or something, and you got corrosion that you could pick off. There, we got that. So I come in and I spray all over the top, and maybe I do a perfect job of wiping it. Oh man, if you look at the surface, you think that was brand new, pristine corrosion. Now we got a whole new problem because the penetrant didn't just go in the crack, it did go in the crack, but it also went in every layer of this surface corrosion. So once I spray it again, it's gonna bleed out like crazy. It's gonna look, let's just do this. It's gonna look like that. That almost looks too good for the crack because the crack's so bad. It's gonna look like that almost. Just too much red. You couldn't differentiate a crack from your elbow. It's just unreal. You can't do it. So you get this problem. The other problem, so I say, great, I call the welder. I say, hey, this is unacceptable. We can't do it with this much corrosion. Come in and hit it with a grinder. And the guy comes in, he cleans it all up, he grinds across it. Well, now he's smeared metal over the surface of the crack. And if he's done so, I can spray on top of that. And if the metal really has capped the crack appropriately, it could move the crack. It could show, the grinder lines are going to look like this, where he's run over, and the crack is, let's just say, under here. But really, he's smoothed over it perfectly. You can't see it. It's going to come up honestly looking something like that. The grinder lines are going to pick up all of the penetrant that was in the crack is going to come out on your grinder lines, and it's just going to be a mess. But you're going to have a hell of a time trying to use a lint-free rag to go ahead and clean the inside micro abrasions of a grinder or a cast grinder or something. Surface prep's a huge problem in this, and so are false indications. So you might get a crack. Let's bring back the old friend, the fillet weld, because I love them. And let's say we had, it was Friday afternoon when they were doing it, and we're going home early. So we got this, and we got a little lap here. It didn't quite fuse nicely here at the bottom. So I spray it, the penetrant goes in. It's not a crack. I mean, laps are a problem too. We have codes we work to, but laps a problem too, but it goes in. You could have a crack. Boy, this is a bad pen. You know what, it's driving me nuts. I gotta have another pen. Give me a second. Sorry, guys, again, amateur hour. I always feel bad bringing you guys back and forth with me. How are we gonna do this? We'll take this, and we'll start on a piece of paper. Unbelievable, but yeah, you can tell now that I'm doing it real time with you. Okay, sorry. So, here's our fillet weld. But our fillet weld has, oh my God, very bad fusion on the bottom, like there. There we go. Yep, good enough. We'll call it like that. But it also has a heat-affected zone crack. So now I'm going to spray in this area. A ton of penetrant's going to go in, and that'll be incredibly complicated to clean the. Oh, was I showing you any of that? What? You got it. Fillet weld, lack of fusion, heat-affected zone crack. Now we're over here. It's incredibly complicated. You're never going to clean under the lack of fusion. So then when you've done your best cleaning, it looks good. You spray the developer on. This is going to bleed, man alive, that's going to bleed all day long. It's going to bleed a lot, and it's going to completely obscure this. So if you see bleed out, you have to do locational retests. It's a disaster. The number of, I get to the end of a crack, and you say, that crack's not. It's not a crack, it's the end of the weld you're looking at. They didn't finish their weld. The weld goes along here. Now we're looking at the fillet weld planer, So we got one piece of metal up this way and one piece of metal down this way. And it looks like this. And they got to the end, but they didn't complete the weld, which is its own problem. This is gonna bleed forever. Okay, now is a good time to go back. The other thing, if you give yourself small indications, they're going to come out quick or slow. Oh, where'd my pen go? There we go. If you have a crack, it's going to bleed very slowly. There's not a lot of liquid below the surface to slowly blip out. But if you got a pore, it's got a ton of liquid. It's going to bleed out. It's going to obscure things. It's going to overcolor things. So now, this is still just the crack, but it used to be so crisp, and now it's this big, ugly. Shoot, it's got to be a 1/4 inch wide. Now this is a round bar and there's nothing else around, but if we were doing, a weld that's more complicated, that's not too complicated, but if we're doing a weld that's more complicated, it becomes a real timing game. You start doing, guys will start spraying, they'll spray 800 pieces, they'll spray the whole room in red. Well, they're going to get so much overbleed, and you're going to lose indications because you're getting overbleed. Everything's at the end of the day is just going to look like that. Given enough time, this will bleed and bleed and bleed. You can see it's still, if the right angle, let's see if we can get it for you. You can see there's still a crisp indication in there. It's still bleeding sharp without developer in the overbleed. So penetrant, it's an easy to mess up. If I'm out watching guys do NDT, it's one of the ones you most regularly say, "What? Oh, yeah, you can't clean water washable like I just did with a cleaner remover. That's not right. You gotta use water. If you're using emulsifier, there are times for how long everything sits. You gotta be pretty on point with penetrant, or you're gonna get a lot of fake indications. You're gonna miss a lot of things. The style itself, not too hard. Spray it on, goes in the crack, clean it, it comes out. You're gonna see it, it's an easy theory, it's incredibly portable, there's not much to it except discerning what you're looking at. So you wanna make sure when a guy's doing your job, when he's looking at what you're telling him to check, that he's actually checking it, because he could be going through the motions and not getting there. Guys, I'm sorry this one was a little rushed, but I gotta hit a plane. I'll try again next time. Good luck, guys. We'll talk to you later.